So everyone, we're thrilled to have Sayantan with us here today. Sayantan is a native of Calcutta, lived in Delhi for the last 9 years. He's been in the publishing industry for a long time. He was one of the founding team of Simon and Schuster when they started in India. 6 years ago, was it, Sayantan? 4 years ago. And he's, I think, one of the few surviving members of the original editing team. But yeah, he's a commissioning editor there, a senior commissioning editor. And we have lots and lots of interesting questions for you, Sayantan. So I'm actually going to hand over to Namrata. And Namrata, if you can start with the questions. Do you have those handy? Sure. I'm just going to be back in a moment because there's some trouble happening with my laptop and I just need to take care of that. So just get started. I'll be with you guys in just a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't think I can see. Hi. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Whoever is here. Hello.
Sure. Sayantan, I'm sure Chetan must have briefed you about the First Draft Club. The First Draft Club is basically on the lines of NaNoWriMo. So all the participants who are here are actually aiming to finish the first draft in this month. So all of them are aspiring writers and could do with a lot of your wisdom and guidance on the publishing industry. So the first question that we have for you today is, how do publishing companies look at new authors? Are they pesky irritants or big opportunities? If you could tell us a bit about it.
No, certainly not pesky irritants. That would be the death of publishing if one started looking at new authors that way. Because more often than not, what we have seen in the past, especially since Indian writing in English took off in the past 10 years or so, so many debut novels have done exceedingly well, and not just novels, debut writing. It could be non-fiction, it could be any form. In fact, when we launched our India in print in early 2017, we started with a debut novel called Laila by Prayag Akbar, and there were a lot of debates and arguments around it as well. That should we launch the imprint with an established name, or should we go with somebody who's just starting out? But all of us in the editorial as well as the management felt that the novel had the potential to launch the imprint in the best possible manner, and we did it quite successfully. So no, certainly not. Nowhere close to being pesky irritants. There's certainly opportunities, much like established authors. And often, what happens is when a writer is working for a long time, they tend to, I'm not saying everyone, but there is a possibility that you tend to repeat yourself a little bit, which is always makes it exciting, which is what always makes it exciting to encounter new writers, because they're always, they come with new styles and ideas and thoughts, and it makes the work that I do pleasurable, and I'm pretty sure that when it reaches the end reader also, it brings something new to the table more often than not.
That sounds very helpful. So I know you also actually write a fair bit. So are all editors writers?
Not all, probably not all, but I think all editors have some amount of writing in them, considering the amount of writing we deal with on a regular basis. A lot of us have actually come from a place. When I was starting out, I didn't really have too much of an understanding of the Indian publishing industry, other than the fact that I read books. But the interest to work with books, I think, primarily comes from a place of a love for reading and writing. So maybe not all editors are professional writers or published writers, but certainly I'd like to believe that all editors have a streak of a writer in them, because purely because of the work they do, the love we have for the work we do.
Sure. I think Chetan is in. Chetan, would you like to take it forward from here?
Just go ahead. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
But I'm here. I'm all ears. Yes.
Okay. So Sayantan, the next question is, do you look at manuscripts across genres, or are there specific areas you specialize in?
Ours is a rather small team at Simon and Schuster India, especially because it's a small list as well. When we started, again, we came with the idea that we're not going to publish.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. We started with the idea that we're not going to publish a whole lot of books every year. We, unlike most mainstream international publishers, we do about 20, 25 books a year, not more than that, certainly. So the team is also small. At the moment, our editorial team is just 3 members who do 3 different kinds of jobs, all overlapping, of course, but just that. So no, I don't look at particular genres. I look at everything. Certainly, there are genres that, as an editor or as even a reader, interest me more sometimes than another. So based on that, I try to look out. But I try to read everything. I think that's one of the key elements of becoming an editor and as well as a writer. I think you have to read everything. It doesn't matter what you like. I think it's important to read what you not like as well, because you don't know what you're going to miss out on.
Yeah.
Yes, I check it.
So I had an unplanned question, but I was thinking about this. So how many books does an editor read in a year? I mean, like, how many books do you read in a year? It's nuts, right?
It is nuts, but that's another, I think, downside of the job, because one, I'm not able to read every submission that reaches my inbox, right? Because it's humanly impossible to read so many books.
Sure.
So I have to often read, I mean, sometimes you get to understand whether reading a manuscript is worthwhile or not by looking at the proposal itself. But sometimes you need to read the novel to an extent, or at least for the writing to an extent, or the entire thing. So I don't keep account, because that will be maddening, because I also like to read for pleasure. So I don't know how many, but yeah, 200 it could be a number, could be a plausible number, I think.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. In order to publish 20-25 books, I mean, you have to read 200 books. Otherwise, you don't know which one. You can't read everything, and you know that not everything is worth publishing, or not everything fits your list.
That's one book every other day, basically.
I mean, it doesn't happen like that, but sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's maddening, sometimes it's comfort reading.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Yeah, Sayantan, so could you tell us, how does a submission reach your desk? Like, what's the journey? We send a manuscript to that email ID, following the submission guidelines. What happens after that?
So there are multiple channels at the moment. How mostly all Indian publishers work. Of course, there is an email which you'll find in most of the websites of the publishers, including ours, which is the general email website. So anyone can write in, anyone can drop in the manuscript. But the thing with that is, because it's open to everyone, something that the West doesn't do anymore. There was a time when the West also accepted what is in a strangely named way called the slush file. The West has stopped doing it to a large extent now, but we still do it. Not all publishers in India do it, but we are still, open to unsolicited submissions. But what happens is it keeps rising. So we have to also pick and choose which ones to read out of those. We of course read the synopsis. We of course read the proposal, and if it interests us, of course we move ahead and read the manuscript or make someone we trust read it. But otherwise, that's one of the channels certainly for someone to send in the manuscript, and if it's good, sooner or later it does get placed. Other channels, of course, are the other traditional methods of going to a literary agent, which is also a scene which is developing in India and has grown by manifold in the past, I think, 5 odd years. So one can always look at that option as well as a writer. One can send a manuscript to a literary agent who have their own set of editors sitting with them, who have a fair idea of the market and what the publishers want, and through them we often we work very closely with literary agents. So through them often it reaches our desk.
How do publishers view literary agents?
How do we view literary agents? I mean, they're extremely significant in the space, because, like I was saying, when I started in this industry about 9 years ago, it wasn't the case. Literary agents were still the agencies were still at a nascent stage. Of course, there were a couple of them who have had worked for a few years or many years also, but there were not so many in number, and they wouldn't work so extensively with so many authors. That has changed now. We work very closely with literary agents, and by we I mean all major publishers. They're very significant because what happens as a result is when you start working with literary agent and when you start receiving manuscripts from them, you know there is a certain amount of quality that is guaranteed because they've already gone through that manuscript. Their editors or their readers have gone through that manuscript at least a couple of times. But also what happens is over time one builds relationships with literary agents. One tends to trust them and their decisions and their judgments. And on the other hand, they tend to understand an editor's taste better and better with time. So they know that they won't send you a manuscript that's not going to suit your list or suit your taste. So they won't waste your time doing that. So that obviously helps. So yeah, very closely. They're very, very important, cogs in this publishing league.
Sure.
So I had another question, Sayantan. So, I mean, obviously India is, we are in very close touch with the literary agents, and there's all of 13 and a couple more that are threatening to join in the next year or so. But it's a very small community as compared to, say, the UK or the US or someplace. But some publishers in India like Aleph and Hachette have stopped taking direct submissions. They are only accepting submissions through literary agents now. So do you think that will happen? That will become, and in the US and the UK, that is already the industry norm. There's hardly anybody who accepts direct submissions. So by when, or do you think that's likely? Is it not going to happen? Or it's just a matter of, another 2-3 years? How does it look from where you're sitting at Simon and Schuster?
I think it's not going to happen as soon as in a couple of years. It's from what I have observed, I think it's inevitable that with the number of, like you said, because the number of literary agents are limited at the moment, but growing every year. I mean, I receive manuscripts from all corners of the country now. Literary agents sitting in Indore, sitting in Jaipur, and they're small agents who are just starting out, but they've started sending out their manuscripts as well. So with once literary agents have laid their bases across the country, say in every major city in India, once they have 1 or 2 literary agents, I think that will become the norm, which is the case in the West because there are so many, both big and small. It's easy for a writer sitting in a small town as well to reach out to a literary agent who is within their reach. And unlike, say, in India, where most of the literary agents were based in, say, New Delhi, much like how publishers are. So someone sitting in a small town or say in Ranchi would probably not even know how to reach out to them. But if there is an office in Ranchi, they can just walk up to the office and ask them what's the procedure. So it becomes much easier once the space grows. It won't happen in a couple of years, majorly because of the size of Indian publishing. The size of US and UK publishing is so much bigger than ours that a large number of literary agents are able to operate at the same time simultaneously. Here, we don't have the capacity for that yet. But of course, we are always constantly trying to grow. Every publisher is trying to grow the size every year to publish more books, different kinds of books, so that the space increases, which will take a bit of time, but perhaps in the next 5 years, 7 years, I think that will become the norm with most publishers.
Okay. People tell us all the time that we should become literary agents because we have like the community and everything else. So you have advice for us?
Yes, why not? I mean, you should certainly take it up. You should have a couple of solid readers who are willing to read through everything that comes your way, and then send it out. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think more people, the number of people who are interested in books and publishing work in this space, the bigger the industry will become, and it's important. Yeah. Because we have readers. It's not a country which is. I keep hearing people saying that India doesn't read anymore. It's completely untrue. Every year we add more readers to the pile. Every year publishers sell more books. So people are not buying books to just keep on their shelves. They're also reading them. So that is certainly increasing. There are readers everywhere.
Okay, cool. All right, good. Thanks.
Sayantan, so we wanted to know, when a submission reaches your desk, what is the first thing that catches your attention? Is it the author's bio, the sample chapters, the synopsis, the covering letter? What is that you would advise actually ranking in terms of importance of what grabs the attention of an editor?
Right. This is actually very important because what happens, like I said, because editors receive so many of these submissions, it's important to write, an email which makes sense, which more often than not, one tends to I don't know how to put it. Brag about their own achievements, which is not the idea of reading a book, right? I want to know when I'm receiving a submission, I want to know more about the book rather than the person. Of course, a little bit about the person as well. An exciting title often helps. If the email is concise and precise and tight, it gives a sense of, when we read an email from a writer, a submission, as an editor, I am always reading that email from the point of view of the fact that this is how this person writes. So so if that doesn't grab my attention, if that writing I'm not enjoying, it's not a formal letter when you're writing to submit a book. It's whatever grabs the interests of something that tells me about you as a person, something that tells me you as a writer, more importantly, and most importantly, something that tells me mostly about the book. It's very, very difficult, what the West likes to call the elevator pitch. It's very difficult to do it with a manuscript. You've written an 80,000 word manuscript. How do you bring it down 2 lines? It's virtually impossible. But it's possible to bring it down to a passage. I don't need to know everything about what you've written, but just enough to make me want to read it or read the first chapter. That's how it works. Often we go to a bookstore, we pick up the first page, pick up a book and read the first page, and if it interests us, we pick up the book. That's exactly how it works. It's as simple as that. There's no science to it. If I like reading your email, my assumption is I like reading your manuscript.
Right. So this actually brings me to another question, which we have often debated at a lot of sessions, is does an MFA or any other such writing degree make a difference to the bio whose manuscript you select, or is it anybody who can just, send it to you and it's open? MFA does not make a difference.
I can only answer for myself here. I don't know how other editors will look at it, or how whether they'll admit to the truth, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't think, with all due respect to the MFA, I mean, of course, an MFA in creative writing teaches you a whole bunch of things. More importantly, it teaches you how to read, because what writers often do is when they're writing, they get so absorbed with the process, they stop reading. And that's a death knell, according to me. You have to spend as much time reading as you're spending on writing, if you're trying to write something new, something exciting, something original. Because ideas are not born from thin air. They're only going to get born from, and as a writer, you don't have, what do you rehearse with? You don't have an equipment. Your tool is reading. So you read. So no, an MFA, when I look at an MFA in creative writing, I know that this person, in a submission, I know this person will probably know how to structure a book, will probably know how to write a sentence, will probably be grammatically correct, probably has already shown this manuscript to a ton of people in their class, and have got some critiquing, received some critiquing, and has done some work on the project. So it will be, in my head, it will be a polished project, certainly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is in any way advantageous in my eyes. I'll look at it like a manuscript. It still has to excite me as a reader more than anything else. So yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. So Sayantan, what do you think about marketing? Do you think how it is important for a first-time author to have a marketing plan to be able to market their book, or their ability to market determines the future of the book?
I mean, this is the unfortunate truth. I mean, idealistically, one would say that no, a writer's job should be to write the book, and nothing else. But we don't live in that world anymore. It has changed humongously since social media has arrived, since internet has taken over. So yes, it is extremely important. Writing a good book, of course, it should be the main aim of an author. But it is, I don't know whether it's unfortunate, but in my eyes, it is a little unfortunate that after that, a large part of the work, along with the publisher, along with a publicity team or whoever they're working with, the author has to put themselves out there. And by putting themselves out there, I don't mean they have to post about it every day or write about it constantly or spam other people's inboxes. No, but you have to be constantly invested in the idea. You have to go out and be visible. You have to go to bookstores and ask. It makes such a difference when writers visit bookstores, brick and mortar bookstores, and ask a bookseller, "How is my book doing?" And more often than not, if you take the top 5 trade publishers in India, there are probably more than 1,000 books that get published every year, which is about 3 books every day. many booksellers wouldn't even get to know of so many your book if it has already not created some kind of a buzz. So how do you do it? You visit them and you ask them, I've written this book. Have you taken a look at it? If it's good, booksellers often are interested to take a look at it. And if it interests them, if you can hold a conversation with them, tell them why the book matters to you and will matter to readers, they'll put it on the shelf. And if it starts moving, they'll understand that there is a demand. So yes, it's extremely important. Social media, of course, is important. You have to talk about your book in an interesting manner as much as possible, of course, in tandem with the publishers who will do the major chunk of the work. But again, when it comes to the publishers, every publisher publishes multiple books every month. So for them, they'll put their entire effort on it. But for them, it's one of the books. But for an author, it's their only book. So and they become the face of the book inevitably, because everyone's so approachable now. When people look at a new book, a book is getting announced. If it's not a known author, they look at the name. Many readers will just Google them and see what they have done. It's so easy to access information now that and so once they have that access, they will expect something from you on your social media, on your pages, whether it's a blog post, anything that can inform them more about the book. Maybe before even it has released, that information going out will help. Again, not a barrage of information, just enough to keep the interest alive, to keep whoever should be, even if it's not helping in giving birth to new readers for yourself, but anyone who's already interested in something you're writing should at least get to know that your book is coming. So for that, it's very, very, very important.
Yeah, true. Thanks. Sayantan, we are opening the floor for questions now.
Sure.
So one of the first questions we have is from Manish. He wants to know, what is your manuscript selection criteria? What part is driven by market and what is creative expression, etc.?
Thank you, Manish. It is really a balance that we have to draw. Of course, creative expression is extremely important, but so what we try to do is, sometimes we know we are taking on a book which is not going to do big numbers, but we know this is an important book which will perhaps last longer than many other books. Perhaps it's a longer shelf life. Perhaps it's important. Perhaps it's a timely book that needs to be out there. Maybe it doesn't have a great market potential, but it's a timely and important book. So we do that for those purposes as well. But yes, the market conditions also affect our decision making. Sometimes we have to do a certain kind of book, especially with nonfiction, which is actually 60 to 65% of the publishing space right now. Because nonfiction writing often depends on the mood of the country, what is going on currently around in the society. People writing, urgent, timely books about events that are taking place all around us at the moment. What is working in other spaces, like what kind of cinema people are going out and watching? Because the arts is all interconnected, right? So what are people doing? Like, for instance, during the pandemic, if I had published a great travel book, it would make no sense because nobody would read it. So you have to keep your eye out for what the country is going through right now, whether it's politically, socially, economically, everything matters in that case. So yeah, it's really a balance one has to draw. But creative expression certainly is something, as an editor at least, I pay a lot of important attention to.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'll take the Q&A, Namrata. Thanks so much for that. So we're going to try and focus more on questions which will help people get published. And then there is a few theoretical questions. We'll keep them for the end. If we have time, then we'll take those. But I'm like Manish's question. Manish's first question was definitely a relevant one. Then Richard is asking, over the past few years, has the submission of manuscripts increased significantly? How much of a book gets read before a decision is made, and what are the most common reasons for rejection?
Sorry, what was the first question?
The first is, has the number of submissions gone up?
Yeah, certainly they have. More people are willing to read and put their work out. Again, I think it's a direct correlation with how social media works. People are already writing things every day, whether on their Facebook, on their Instagram. You see chunk of writing already happening, so that that confidence of putting yourself out there is already building among writers. People are getting inspired because other writers and their works are accessible. when you go on Twitter now and see that a Salman Rushdie at this stage of his career is starting a Substack account and putting stories out there, you automatically get some confidence that, okay, this guy at this stage can do it, so I should, give it a shot too, perhaps. So it's an ecosystem that's building. So certainly it has gone up. And how much of a manuscript is read before a decision is taken? Again, it entirely depends on the writing. Sometimes you read a manuscript sometimes I've read a page and I've known that I can't publish this. And it has multiple reasons. It's not only because of the quality of writing. Sometimes, more often than not, it is. You read a page and you know that this is not the kind of writing that is ready to be published yet. At least according to me. It's again a subjective opinion. I mean, no one can ask another person to not write, but I can only give my opinion from experience. And often what happens is, say in case of say a thriller, if I'm reading a whodunit, then I'll have to read. It has to keep me hooked throughout. It can't fall flat on chapter 7, and then I'll expect me to read through, say, 50 pages in order to make it interesting again, because then it doesn't make sense. So it depends on the kind of manuscript. So decisions are made by reading just the synopsis as well, because you read the subject of a manuscript and you know that it doesn't fit your list. And when I say by doesn't fit your list, every publisher has a certain idea of the kind of books. Like this is September. By July, we had already made up our decision, because we had to work, beforehand. We had already made up a rough decision on what kind of books we want to bring out next year. Not the exact book. We don't have an author in mind in every case, but the kind of books that the genres that we want to attend. If we have to push the envelope a little bit, what more could we do with it within the limited space of the 20-25 books that we are publishing? So it really depends on the writing.
Okay, great. And the next question, which is from Nandini, was: is a writer who can write a series more attractive than a writer pitching a single book?
No, not when it comes to books. I think why this is becoming a norm more and more, especially in fiction, also popular non-fiction writing, I'd say, is because of how OTT platforms perform, which has become a very, very significant business proposition for many publishers. Because when we are trying to sell a book to an OTT platform, which is happening across the board now, all kinds of books are getting sold, and it's important because it gives the book a bigger shelf life. It gives the story a bigger shelf life. They are more interested in a series and often not on a single book. But as far as publishers are concerned, I don't think so. I don't think that what publishers want is, or at least I as a publisher want, is to build a long-term relationship with a writer. They could be writing a series, they could be writing different books, but I want, when I'm signing on an author, or when I start believing in an author's work, I would want that they continue to work with me for some time to come. So no, not series is obviously exciting, but it's not the only thing.
All right, great. I'm skipping the MFA question because that you can Google. There isn't any as far as I know. What's the turnaround time from submission to publication? That's Sujata's question.
Once again, it depends on the kind of book that you have submitted. If you submit in the middle of the year, and most publishers would have already drawn out their publishing plan by then for the year. So, and presumably for the next year as well. So, but it could be, say, so in that case, if it's, say, a novel, it's a literary novel, or it's a non-fiction book, it's a history book. In that case, from the submission to the publication, the norm would be, say, in about a year. In a year's time, so the book will see the light of day. And I'm again giving a rough figure. It could be a year and a couple of months. It could be 8 months as well. But say, in case you have submitted something timely, something that's going on at the moment. If you've written a book on, say, I don't know, whatever is going on right now. Well, something that's going on right now. So we have to, bring it out immediately. Something that's happening in, if you want to write a book on, say, at the moment, Neeraj Chopra, it would make a lot of sense to bring it out right now, because the entire attention is around. Then in that case, if a manuscript comes, a publisher would make space for it in the next 3 months or 4 months. It can't be before that, because the editorial process and developing a cover, developing a plan, all that takes that kind of time, even if we rush through it. But yeah, in that case, it will make sense. Otherwise, roughly a year, if it gets accepted.
Okay, great. That's helpful. Swati has a question about the time frame journey. So you already kind of answered that. Shinu has asked what kind of genres are gaining more traction these days. You already mentioned nonfiction is the big one, but within that, is there any particular? I believe self-help books are very big, right?
Self-help books are huge. Political biographies are huge. Uh, health, spirit, mind books are huge. Uh, uh, if you just talk about numbers, there are other books which are doing well as well, but these are purely numbers. Again, that it comes with its, like it's a stinging tail in the end, because when everyone knows that self-help books are huge, the number of submissions for self-help are also more. The number of books published in that area is also more. So not every book is succeeding. So of course, say in comparison to say I don't know, historical fiction in India and the self-help, if you look at the two genres, maybe the self-help space is 10 times larger, but the number of books getting published in that space is also 10 times larger. So a lot of books are disappearing as a result as well. So yes, it's a trend that one needs to follow. It's a trend that one needs to keep a tab on, but one must still write what they want, what they know, they're interested in. But these are certainly some of the genres, like I say, political fiction, political autobiographies and biographies, historical non-fiction, things, books centering around the colonial and pre-colonial India, and especially things like, say, what Manu Pillai is writing, or writers like Ira Mukhoti is writing. This is also a space which is constantly growing.
So, and there's, I mean, self-publishing is now just such a big part of every writer's mind space. So there's this question about what are the chances of any traditional publisher picking up a self-published book and considering it, or that author for self-publishing, for traditional publishing?
For the same book or for a different book?
For the same book.
Very low. Once the book is out in the market, once the book is already out in the market or out on Amazon or whatever, online, chances are other publishers won't be interested in it because it's easily available.
So Amish Tripathi was really an exception there?
Amish Tripathi he said he had a plan. I can't talk about it in great detail, but he had a major plan how he launched his book. And those are exceptions, certainly. Those are certainly exceptions, because it doesn't happen overnight. It needs a lot of preparation, and not everyone will be able to pull off an Amish Tripathi. That's the truth. That's the bitter truth. It was not a fluke.
Right. Swati has a question also. Financially, what are the kinds of compensation a debut fiction author might realistically keep in mind? Swati, that's a difficult question to answer, and we have a blog post about it. So I just point you to the blog post if you don't mind, because I don't know if Sayantan will be able to give you a number.
I can't because it really varies. Yeah. And I don't want to also disappoint anyone.
Yeah, but Namrata, if you can share the self versus traditional publishing blog, that'll be good. How does a writer figure out, this is Richard's question again, how does a writer figure out which publishing house is going to focus on what in the next year or the year after that? Should you just go by what has been previously published by the house? I guess that's a good question.
That's certainly the only way, because a publishing house, no matter which house, will not give out their plan to anybody or in public, because it's constantly evolving and it's also mostly confidential. But reading the kind of books that they're already doing certainly gives an idea. If you look at their website, if you keep following their website, if you take a look at their catalog for this year, you'll get a fair idea. And most publishers will give you a brief glimpse of what they're publishing next year as well in their current catalog. So that will certainly give you an idea that these are the kind of books or these are the kind of genres that a publishing house is looking at.
Right. For fiction novels, novels are fiction. For novels, do publishers always look for 100% complete story in manuscript, or is it a good idea to start submission at a pre-finished stage?
Never a good idea to submit at a pre-finished stage, because if at all your novel interests the editor and they are reading it at the moment and say they're interested in it, and if it suddenly stops and you finish the novel, say 2 months later, by then they would have moved on from that one, may not have remembered what they have read in great detail. So that the work that you have put in and the work that the editor or the reader has put in will be, in a lot of cases in vain. So it's always ideal to finish the manuscript. Otherwise, in a lot of cases, editors won't even take a look at it because they'll wait for the manuscript to be finished.
But for non-fiction, people
non-fiction it might work.
Accept ideas.
For non-fiction, it might work. But you ask novels, which is why I answered it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
This is another good question. Where does the genre of memoirs find itself in the Indian publishing industry?
It's a small space. It's not as big as it is, say, in the US, where memoirs, even by people who are not famous or celebrities, it has a huge market because people want to read other people's stories of triumph or struggles. In India, that space is still quite nascent. Memoirs, unless it's a political memoir or now whatever a genre that's picking up, it's a celebrity memoir. That it's still a nascent space. I hope it develops because books like, say, Educated, which came out, or some kind of books like those where the writer is not aware, not well known previously, or as well known globally previously, but has a very interesting story to tell, is able to tell their story. But that's we do a lot of Simon and Schuster in the US and the UK is able to do a lot of them, and very successfully as well. But in India, that's still very driven by, again, because of the size of the market, the size of the readership, which is comparatively lower. Because of that, it's driven largely by celebrity memoirs, unfortunately, at the moment. But I'm sure it's going to change.
Question from Richard, and we have a few minutes, so we can take that from Richard or from Manish. About self-publishing companies and how do traditional publishers view them? Do you even think about that?
No, I don't. I really don't. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it should be there. They should be there. There's nothing wrong with them at all. There's no reason to even look down upon them or judge them for publishing. They're also helping writers reach out to a certain number of readers, and one must have respect for that. But we don't work at all with them. So, and we have so much to do otherwise that there's really no time to think about what they are doing or looking at. If a self-published book becomes suddenly an overnight success, of course, every editor in this country will look at it, try to pick it up, have a go, read it and see what is in it. But otherwise, it's very difficult to keep a tab on. So we largely don't.
Right. And overall, we've been doing this bestseller list, and we see some really unusual movements in the bestseller list. We see some books will turn up and then suddenly vanish, and it seems to be very much more random than, say, the New York Times bestseller list, where there is a smooth curve. A book enters, stays on the charts, goes off. Here you'll have, a book will turn up on on number 10, then it'll vanish, then it'll turn up again at number 30. After 3 weeks, then it'll disappear again. And Namrata and I have been kind of, cracking our heads saying, "Ye ho kya raha hai?" We even asked Nielsen, "Ki ye kya hai?" We haven't got a convincing answer. So do you have any insight? Why is the book market like this? Why is it so random?
What is the Nielsen guys tell you?
We haven't had a call with them yet. We send them some emails. They gave us very tactical responses. This book did this because. But I'm looking for an overall big picture, saying, why does the market behave like this, right? It's not a particular book I'm asking about.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I agree with you. It does happen in some cases where a book comes and disappears. I can tell you maybe answer a part of the question. In some cases, what happens is, again, because it's a largely readership is becoming a lot to do with social media now, so or reviews. So when, say, we have seen, I can talk from experience. We have seen, say, when a book hits the market and it has reached, say, a certain, say, hit number 5 on the charts or whatever, and then the interest on it has dipped and it has gone out. And then, say, we reach out, something, again, I'm not the best person to answer this because this is the publicity team handles it, but I've heard of something called a blog tour. So what happens is a lot of bloggers and bookstagrammers come together and say, write about the book. So automatically, when readers are opening their Instagram or going on their emails, there's a newsletter waiting for them. So suddenly, a large chunk of readers or interested readers are reached out through these manners, when maybe 50% of them are going and ordering that book immediately or picking it up from their store, and automatically the book picks up again. What often happens with celebrity books is that some other cricketer has tweeted about your book, and suddenly it pops. It happens all the time these days. one tweet from a controversial tweet or a controversial thing, somebody say you've written a book and the news channel picks up something from it. And if it's non-fiction largely, and it becomes a controversial point of debate for a couple of nights, and automatically that book pops up back again on the list. And again, a week later, that is not within the purview of interest of viewers or readers. So it is again off the charts. So these are trends that we have followed. There is no definite answer to this. I mean, if
15 minutes of fame.
Publishing. It is. But if we haven't had an answer, we'll be publishing a lot more of these, which keep coming back on the list because a lot of our books don't even make it to the list.
All right, cool. Well, this has been awesome. We don't see any further questions, but it's been fantastic chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thank you.
I wanted to spend a few minutes. If you have 15 more minutes, you can hang around. But I just wanted to chat with the folks from the First Draft Club, which has been like a beehive in the last week, 10 days. Ever since Ram, you started your writing prompts, I've stopped trying to keep up because it's just too crazy for me to kind of even breathe at that pace. But what's been going on, guys? How's it going for you all? Lots and lots of chatter, lots of action, lots of writing. So what's the story? Ram, tell us. You're the lead, man. Come on.
I'm doing nothing. I mean, I think it's the easiest thing in the world to put up a prompt. I think it's the members who are doing the hard task of writing. But there is one thought that I get when I look at the responses to the prompts. We normally complain about writer's block, but I put up a prompt. This is not something that people have thought about. It is not something people have planned about. It is not related to their primary project. But people are able to churn out 200 words of brilliant writing. So which means each of us, we can write at will. It is possible.
Okay.
It is just that thing that we have in our head that we can't write. I think we can write it well. So
you're supposed to say no pressure after a statement like that.
Yeah, I mean, once you write, there is no pressure, right? Until you write, there is pressure. Once you write, there is no pressure. So that's the biggest takeaway for me, because I mean, the kind of responses coming, and you can see that they are well thought out, they're well crafted, good pieces of writing. So I think we can write it well. I think all of us can write it well. We just maybe need a little nudge. That's it. That's
all right. Awesome. So we are a nice long way. We are well past the halfway point. I think we are at a record at 2.24 lakh words at the halfway point. Last year we were at about we finished the month at about 3.25, right, or something like that. So we are doing better than last time, at least in terms of absolute quantity.
And we have fewer people this time. Last time we had 60 plus. This time we have 50 plus.
We have just 50, I think. It's exactly 50.
Okay. Last time we had 62 or 63 signups.
Yeah, we had more people as well. Yeah. That's true. The other thing I did want to tell you guys, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it's $43,000 that we donated to the Chirag School this year, that you all donated to the Chirag School this year. So that's huge. That's 2 kids' education for 2 years, for an entire year. So it's pretty amazing. So I also wanted to take a quick show of hands, but you'll have to turn on your cameras for that, or you can do it digitally. But we originally planned the FDC for November. But this time it's been like 1 month break, and then we July, and then we did September, and then again it'll be just 1 month break, and then we'll be doing November. So we were toying with the idea of pushing November to October. You guys always have NaNoWriMo to fall back on if you really want, although of course there's no action, not this kind of action there. But what do you think? Any questions, any thoughts, suggestions there? Yes, Namrata, go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you meant December and not October, right?
Yeah. I'm saying, should we do it in December? Or should we do it in November? That's the question. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
I vote for November.
How many people for November? Raise your hand. Digitally or otherwise?
November.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'd say 7, 8 hands. And how many people vote for, or maybe more, like 10, 11 hands? How many people vote for December? How many would prefer December? November ones, please put your hands down. Okay, November, everybody put your hands down. And now December, let's do a count of hands. There's only 2. only Shino and Sonia vote for December. Everybody else wants November. But like about 80% of the people, no, not 80, whatever, 50% of the people abstained. So they don't want another FDC. So, okay, that's fine too. You break my heart, but what the hell. All right. So we'll see. We'll take a call. I guess it's still okay. Shino has also clarified to November. So that means it's actually only one vote. Only Swati is voting for. Swati, which one are you voting for? Swati is the only one who's voted for December. Everybody else has voted for November. Swati and maybe Sonia. Okay. All right. Cool. That's helpful. So anything else that you want to share? Anything else you want to chat about? Otherwise, we call it a day. And I really want to thank Sayantan, of course. It's been brilliant to get an inside track like that. I can see.
It's totally my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sayantan. Fantastic meeting you. And such a brilliant, such a brilliant set of insights for all of us. So we're very grateful. And
hopefully
we'll be back in touch with you. I'm not going to become a literary agent, just for the record, because I love teaching. I don't think I could do. It's hard work and it's very rewarding in its own way, but it's not for me. So I'm very clear about that. But I was still curious what you would say.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's why I asked.
yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure.
All right.
All the best
guys.
to all the writers here. So.
Thanks so much. Thanks for all your wishes. Take care, everybody. I'll find you on the WhatsApp group again, and we'll go from there. All right. Take care. Bye.